welcome to the West Asia Post. I am Radi Francis, coming for a new episode of WION's weekly show where we bring you flashpoints from the most volatile region in the world. Gaza is still under fire, a peace deal in peril, and a flotilla to break the blockade. In Lebanon, Israel attacks and says it is hitting Hezbollah. Beirut counts the dead. Is the ceasefire already history? And the Houthis are expanding from the Red Sea to the Gulf of Aden. All this and a lot more is lined up, but first, the headlines. An Israeli offensive, a peace deal hanging in balance. Flotilla is trying to break years-long siege on Gaza. And in the middle of all this are the people of Gaza struggling and still under the fire. We tell you more in this report.
Gaza continues to bleed. Each strike, each blast, leaves behind only rubble and grief. More than 66,000 Palestinians have been killed and over 160,000 wounded.
The situation is tragic. The bombing is non-stop. Shells are falling overhead, snipers are firing, quadcopters are flying. We fear that at any moment we might be shot, or that quadcopters might enter our homes.
Gaza City, once the beating heart of the Strip, now stands emptied out. Israel has ordered its million-strong population to flee south, turning homes into ruins and neighborhoods into evacuation routes.
You, as a negotiator, negotiate and speak. On whose behalf are you negotiating? Have you heard the opinions of the people? Have you heard what Gaza is saying?
Some have found shelter in makeshift camps. Others are still in transit. Families uprooted, children carrying memories instead of toys, and streets that once bustled with life are now shrouded in silence.
We came on foot. We couldn't find any ride and we don't have money for transportation anyway, so here we are, walking. And even there we won't find a place. We don't know where we are going.
Uncertainty looms over Trump's proposed peace plan. It has instead ignited anger and suspicion. According to a report by Axios, Arab officials say they were blindsided. The plan was presented as if it were final, even though they believed talks were still underway. What further fueled the fury were sweeping changes inserted by Netanyahu himself.
Are you confident, sir, there'll be peace in Gaza anytime soon?
Clauses that rolled back, promises of Israel's withdrawal from Gaza. Most of the Arab demands were ignored, prompting Qatar to urge Trump's team to delay the plan's release, and yet the deal was put on the table. Instead of unity, the plan has deepened divisions. And yet, negotiators press on. Qatar, Egypt, Turkiye, and Jordan, all trying to keep the talks alive.
Do everything we can.
Qatar's prime minister said that while Trump's proposed plan achieves an end to the war in Gaza, there are still some clauses that need discussion and clarity. Egypt is balancing its role as a gatekeeper while trying to prevent spillover on its own borders. Turkiye, long a champion of the Palestinian cause, affirms it wants to see conditions of all parties taken care of. Jordan, with its large Palestinian population, is cautious, knowing that the collapse of a peace plan could have repercussions inside its own borders. Trump has laid down his own ultimatum, giving Hamas just a few days to respond, warning they will pay in hell if they say no. But there is a small caveat. U.S. officials say they are willing to discuss requests from Hamas for clarification and amendment of specific clauses, but the overall proposal is not up for renegotiation. Hamas calls the proposal unjust, saying it serves Israel's interests alone. They object to the demand of being disarmed and to allow foreign troops into Gaza, terms they see as humiliation, not peace. And as talks drag on, another struggle is unfolding, this time at sea. A humanitarian flotilla, once 44 vessels strong, set out to break the siege of Gaza. Israel's navy intercepted almost all of them, stopping dozens of boats, seizing supplies, and detaining hundreds of activists from more than 40 countries. But still, one ship remains. The Polish-flagged Marinette, a small yacht with a crew of 6, continues to sail toward Gaza, defying the blockade. A single boat against an entire navy. For Israel, it is about control. For activists, it is a mission of years-long control over international waters, and for the world, it is a symbol that even when the siege tightens, the quest to reach Gaza does not end.
Tensions are rising in the region. It is reaching new unprecedented levels. Now Israel is threatening to start another round of war with Iran, so the uneasy calm may soon shatter. We tell you more in this report.
Israel says it will no longer tolerate shadows and threats from Iran. A senior IDF assessment warns that the campaign against Iran is not over. Every missile, every base, every proxy is in the crosshairs. Iran, in response, is thundering back. Its top generals declare the armed forces are fully prepared to decisively confront any aggression. Its naval units, infantry, air defenses, all are on high alert, primed for conflict. In June, Israel launched a surprise assault, striking deep into Iran's heartland, eliminated top commanders, and damaged critical nuclear and defense installations. Tehran responds decisively with waves of ballistic missile and drone attacks aimed at Israeli cities, causing widespread destruction and casualties. The US also joined its ally Israel and dropped bunker buster bombs targeting Iranian nuclear facilities. Since then, a fragile ceasefire is holding. Both Tel Aviv and Tehran view the conflict through existential lenses. Israel claims that Iran's accelerating nuclear program and missile capacity is an immediate danger. While Iran perceives itself under siege from relentless covert and overt attacks. Iran has maintained that its nuclear program is for energy and isn't deigned for obtaining nuclear weapons. But the mistrust between the two West Asia foes runs deep. The IRGC warns that the range of Iran's missiles will be increased to any point deemed necessary. Demands by the US and some European countries to impose restrictions on Iran's missile capabilities have been one of the issues blocking the path to a nuclear deal. Right now, the clock is ticking. One misfire, one strike is all that can push West Asia into another violent crisis. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
Yemen's Ansarullah, the Houthis, are intensifying their attacks. They are expanding from the Red Sea into the Gulf of Aden. From drones and missiles flying over Israel to now striking international shipping. The trade routes are in danger and the Houthis are not stopping. Listen in.
A Dutch-flagged cargo ship, the Minerva-Gracht, was left burning and adrift in the Gulf of Aden after a direct cruise missile strike by Yemen's Houthi rebels. The attack this week marks the most serious assault in months and signals that the Yemen-based group is expanding its reach far beyond the Red Sea. 2 crew members were wounded and 19 others forced to abandon ship as fire engulfed the vessel. The crew included sailors from the Philippines, Russia, Sri Lanka, and Ukraine. The Houthis claimed responsibility, calling it a, quote, successful military operation against Israeli interests, although the Houthis' Dutch owners denied any links to Israel. What began for the Houthis as their moral response to the Gaza crisis, the Yemeni group has also made reimposed sanctions on Iran, another reason on its list.
Our great, struggling and steadfast Yemeni people continue and will continue to support and defend the oppressed Palestinian people against the crime of the century. The Yemeni armed forces affirm that their military operations are ongoing and will not be ceased until the aggression is halted and the blockade on the Gaza Strip is lifted.
American oil giants are now on the hit list. The Houthis, defiant as ever, warned they would employ all means and instruments against U.S. oil companies including Chevron, ConocoPhillips, and ExxonMobil. For months, the group has been launching missiles and drones thousands of kilometers towards Israel, calling it an act of solidarity with the Palestinians. Houthis have so far fired dozens of drones and nearly 100 ballistic missiles, but most have been intercepted or fell short. The sheer volume is stretching Israel's defenses. Israel's Iron Dome, designed primarily for short-range rockets, is now being tested against long-range drones and heavy ballistic missiles. Israel has launched 19 major attacks on Yemeni soil since July 2024, including a recent one that killed the Houthi prime minister and several senior ministers in the capital, Sana'a. The cost of the Houthi campaign is already devastating. At least 8 mariners killed, 4 ships sunk, and global shipping routes upended with over $1 trillion in trade affected. Now, with new threats against American companies, the Houthi battlefield is no longer confined to the Red Sea. It is expanding into other areas of global trade and into the heart of the West Asia conflict.
The tensions along the Israel-Lebanon front are simmering. Israel attacks Lebanon. It says it is attacking Hezbollah storage sites. It kills Lebanese people and says it is Hezbollah operatives. On the other hand, the Lebanese government has confirmed strikes on Lebanon and casualties among Lebanese civilians. Now, all this leaves the ceasefire, the fragile ceasefire, in tatters. We tell you more in this report.
Israeli jets crossed deep into Lebanese airspace, striking what the army claimed as Hezbollah weapons storage sites. The strikes were launched last weekend, the IDF said. The depots were being used to prepare and launch attacks against Israel. But Lebanon's state news agency described a much wider onslaught, a series of airstrikes near Kfar Raman and Jarmak, and a drone strike on a residential home in Humin. As the dust settled from those bombings, the Israeli military announced another wave of strikes, this time targeting individuals. The IDF released footage of the attacks and claimed killing 2 Hezbollah operatives, men it accuses of directing artillery fire against Kiryat Shmona, the Golan Heights and the Galilee Panhandle. According to Israel, they were key to rebuilding Hezbollah's fighting capabilities. The strikes hit in 2 symbolic locations, Somor in the Bekaa Valley and near Beaufort Castle in the south, both long-time Hezbollah strongholds. But in Lebanon, the impact was far from just military. Officials in Beirut confirmed 2 civilians were killed, one in a strike in Somor, another when a water tanker was hit in Nabatieh al-Fawqa. A third person was reportedly injured in Eit Araun. These escalations come despite a ceasefire signed last November, a deal that was meant to end over a year of hostilities. But the reality on the ground is different. Israel still has troops deployed at 5 positions inside Lebanon. Despite facing intense pressure from the Lebanese army and the United States, Hezbollah has so far refused to give up its weapons. From the Bekaa to the southern border, the airstrikes are a warning by Israel. They are also a sign that the truce is fracturing fast. With each strike, each funeral, and each promise of resistance, the region slips closer to a return to war.
The Hijaz Railway is something of history. It was once the Ottoman Empire's great way towards the desert. Now a century after a war that destroyed it. Syria, Turkey and Jordan are joining hands to revive it. We tell you more.
Over 100 years ago, it was called the Railway of Dreams. The Hejaz line cut across deserts, across empires, carrying pilgrims to Medina, soldiers to war, and traders to markets. It was a lifeline and a legend. But history derailed it. World War I, the Great Arab Revolt, to Lawrence and his sabotage teams blew up the tracks. Medina Station fell silent, and what was once a promise of progress was left to deteriorate in the desert. Now, a century later, that legend is being brought back to life. Turkiye, Syria, and Jordan have pledged to revive the Hijaz Railway, and this is about far more than just trains. For Turkiye, it is about power and positioning, building a new economic highway from Istanbul to Jeddah near the Red Sea, reinforcing its role as the region's connector. For Syria, scarred and shattered by years of civil war, it is a glimmer of hope for reconstruction, a chance to rejoin regional trade and rewrite a story that has been paused by bloodshed. For Jordan, it is both history and opportunity. Sections of the Hejaz line still cut through its deserts, a reminder of a glorious past. Now, with Amman leading the technical reboot from locomotive maintenance to operations, Jordan is positioning itself as the railway's heart. With Aqaba, its strategic port on the Red Sea, this project gives Jordan a gateway to turn heritage into hard economic power. As much as this project is about steel tracks and locomotives, it is also about history, heritage, and hope. And soon, travelers may once again ride to places where pilgrims once prayed and camels once trod, a journey into the past, reimagined for the future.
Saudi Arabia is officially entering mainstream cricket. The kingdom has signed a partnership with the International League T20 or ILT20. We tell you more.
Cricket is one of the most watched sports in Asia. It has not gained much popularity in West Asia, but there is a sporadic support for the game, owing largely to the Indian, Pakistani and Bangladeshi population in the region. So this is a significant development for any budding cricketers in Saudi Arabia. Through this partnership, ILT20 will collaborate closely with the Saudi Arabian Cricket Federation and its commercial arm, the Cricket Investment Company, to advance cricket infrastructure and develop talent in the kingdom. This falls in line with the kingdom's Vision 2030, which places strong emphasis on sport and community engagement. The ILT20 was already sanctioned by the Emirates Cricket Board. Now the Saudi Arabian Cricket Federation has officially sanctioned and licensed ILT20 as an official men's and women's competition. As per the new deal, in the coming years, ILT20 matches will also be staged in Saudi Arabia. However, no specific date has been set for the first matches in the kingdom. One of the conditions for this partnership was that each of the 6 ILT20 franchises had to sign at least one player from the oil-rich nation. At the inaugural auction that took place on October 1st, Faisal Khan made history as the first Saudi player to be signed. He was roped in for $10,000 by the Desert Vipers. Osman Najib, Zain ul Abidin, Abdul Manan Ali and Ishtiyaq Ahmad were among others to make their mark in the auction. Over the years, the ILT20 has featured reputed former players like Dwayne Bravo, Jonathan Trott and David Warner among others. To share a dressing room with such world beaters is both a privilege and a golden opportunity for young Saudi talent. And while it's just the beginning of the journey for cricket in Saudi Arabia, this partnership could well be the first big step towards creating a new cricketing powerhouse in the region.
Now let's take a look at some other stories making headlines across West Asia.
Child labor in Iraq remains rampant despite laws banning it, and new data shows little progress in ending the worst forms of abuse. From street vending to construction and waste picking, thousands of children are forced to work instead of going to school, driven by poverty and years of conflict. UNICEF says child labor rates are more than 3 times higher among the poorest households, with over 10% of boys affected. Iraq has ratified international conventions and set age limits, but enforcement is weak. The U.S. Labor Department's 2024 findings warn the country has made only minimal advancement. The UN and Iraqi authorities say fresh efforts are underway to strengthen laws and provide skills, training. But for many children, work still overshadows their education and future. Syria's iconic citadel of Aleppo reopened on September 27th, a symbolic step in the nation's recovery after years of war, earthquake, and turmoil. Drone footage showed the ancient fortress towering over Aleppo as crowds gathered to celebrate. Months of restoration repaired water and power lines, stabilized columns, and reinforced walls. Aleppo Antiquities. Chief said the citadel, like its people, has suffered greatly but still stands tall. A UNESCO heritage site, the citadel was damaged in years of fighting, hit again by the 2023 earthquake, and closed in 2024 amid new clashes. Today, it rises again as a symbol of resilience. Hezbollah marked 1 year since the killing of its longtime leader Hassan Nasrallah by Israel, an attack that ignited a war devastating Lebanon and battering the once powerful group. On September 27th, Hezbollah's current chief Naim Qassem addressed supporters, vowing the group would never disarm and warning of a fierce existential confrontation. Crowds gathered across Hezbollah strongholds with Iranian official Ali Larijani in attendance. Nasrallah was killed last September when Israeli bunker-busting bombs struck a Hezbollah complex in Beirut. His successor, Hashem Safieddin, was killed weeks later, and by December, Syrian Ali Bashar al-Assad was toppled. Despite heavy losses and growing pressure to lay down arms, Hezbollah insists it will fight on.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, always bringing you the most recent updates, news and ground reports from the world's most volatile region. I am Ghadi Francis signing off from Beirut, Lebanon. For more global news, keep on watching WION World is One.